Hello, it's wonderful to have all of you back in the studio with us today. We will be taking up the subject of the laws of attraction and repulsion. I have in the studio Sister Denise, who has been practicing Raj Yoga meditation with the Brahma Kumaris for over 45 years. A very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
So, after the last riveting episode, I'd like to dive head on into this one, the laws of attraction and repulsion. As human beings, we become attracted and repulsed to people and things. What is the reason for this? Is it just superficial, or is there a deeper meaning behind why we have such strong feelings about things and people?
I think it also applies to places, and this is very definitely connected with karma. You would be attracted to somewhere where there is an outstanding karmic debt. You can also be attracted to somewhere where you have a long-standing karmic connection. Maybe you have lived there at some point in another incarnation. You are attracted if there's a person, especially people, who are going to play a very significant role in your life from now and into the future. So you will be strongly attracted there. And you can't always figure out at that moment whether it's going to be an attraction that's pulling you into a karmic account for settlement, which will turn into its opposite, repulsion. So there is that aspect of the law. If it's someone with whom you just have a very deep connection, there'll be an attraction, but it won't turn into something bad. So the attraction will not be these cross polarities. It'll be different energy. And you can really detect that as the relationship with the place, the person, or the object moves further. An object for which you might have a strong attraction may be a musical instrument. I've encountered people who say when they first had a violin put in their hand, they immediately, it awakened a whole big area of their being, because it was in their destiny to be a violin virtuoso, and it had been in their past, and having this thing in their hand woke up everything. So that's another interesting thing. I think that there are also attractions to those things that correspond to you. You know, some people like city people, some people are country people, some people are side of the sea people, some people are island people, some people are mountain people. And I think that people are attracted to that which is the right thing for them, you know. And when you're in your right place, then you can do what you're supposed to do. So a lot of these attractions can be recognized as little messages to say, okay, you're in the right place now you can start operating. You'll also be attracted where the vibration of a place corresponds to your essence. Then you'll feel very comfortable there, and you'll be able to operate well in that environment. Some people are very solitary people, so they're attracted to that. Some people are very social, and if they're put by themselves somewhere, they just really have a hard time. So in many ways, attractions are helpful to help us recognize who we are, what we need, this kind of thing. Repulsions can act like that, where you just know that you don't belong in certain places, and so you just don't. Another thing is repulsion can also mean that you are very repelled because, especially another person, they're really not good for you. They're very toxic for you. They may be violent, they may be predatory, something. You'll pick that up and you will just go the other way.
I'd like you to talk more about this subject in today's conversation, because you mentioned it in a previous episode, that we're addicted to that which we are allergic to. I found that statement quite curious, because your body repels it and yet you're attracted to it. So within the polarities, there's also confusion.
Yes, and I think that that can apply to people as well. You can
Ouch.
also...
That seems like a recipe for disaster.
It is.
Okay, talk slow. Take us through that and talk real slow, because I'll be taking notes and so will the people at home.
You can be allergic to someone.
To someone?
Yes,
Oh God, seriously. You look at someone and you break out in hives.
it can be.
Okay, I thought that was a joke, not an actual thing. Is that a thing?
It's an actual thing. I've observed it firsthand.
Go on.
And so you know that you just cannot stay with that person. It's kind of forbidden. But also you can be attracted to someone who's really toxic for you, to whom you are really allergic, but yet you're attracted. And so this would be a complex negative karma going on, because you become addicted to this person. Again, we go into the aspect of codependency, which is the psychological modality, but you can be drawn to something that's bad for you because you've had too much of it. You know, and some allergies take off when you've had too much of it, and you also crave it. You've also had too much, so your body really repels it, but you become psychologically dependent. So in terms of addiction, your psychological dependence will set up this craving, and your physical allergy will also result in health problems related to your use of that thing or that behavior or that substance. In situations like that, you need to get beyond these energies of attraction and repulsion, because karmic settlement is the name of the game of the laws of attraction and repulsion. We talked earlier about harmony, and together with harmony there's also neutrality. And when you have a neutral relationship with people, places and things, I think it gives you the space to be very creative and make that into something very beautiful. If you come in to a situation where there's really strong attraction, which ties you, and you get all caught up, and maybe other people might give you a warning and say, you know, this is absolutely not the right type of person for you. But why are you drawn? Because there's a karma to be settled. And so you will discard the warnings of other people because you are so intoxicated by this power of attraction. And then once you're good and tied up and can't really get out of it, then it turns and you start to experience the desire to leave. But you're in bondage, you can't get out of it. And so this is the law of karma that attracts you into a trap, and then you can't come out, so you have to suffer. And when you've fully paid whatever the account is, then the trap opens and you can come out. It's a kind of natural mechanism. There's nothing like God who puts you in that trap.
How does someone who is spiritually aware protect themselves from not falling into a karmic trap?
You have to be very careful in how you interact with that person, and you have to keep as much distance as possible, because that will reduce the ways in which the threads get knitted together. We spoke in another episode that the relationship, the natural relationship between people is fraternal. This fraternity requires us to behave with love and regard. And if you keep a reasonable distance, it's quite easy to interact in a loving and regardful way, and then pull out, so that the person is benefited, but this trap doesn't close onto you.
One has to be very strong to do that.
Yeah, you do have to be very strong, and you also have to have your best interests in mind, and your best interest may be the opposite of your feelings.
Oh, gosh. And how does one navigate through that maze?
Well, you need a good compass.
What is that in this context?
You might have heard this expression, a moral compass.
Yeah, I heard it. I heard of it, but how do you implement it?
You implement it that the compass will show you which way is north, and you want to go somewhere. That means you want your life to be balanced, comfortable, logical, coherent, etc. And so you point your compass in that direction, and that if you behave X, Y, Z, you perform this, that, and the other actions, that will be the foreseeable destination. It's like a GPS. But your feelings, you get attracted by something over here, a little bit like the myth of Ram and Sita. You know, she got attracted by a golden deer that she knew was in fact the demon in disguise, and he also knew it was the demon in disguise, Ram and Sita, but she wanted it anyway. And so a person can not walk into a trap blindly, they walk into a trap with fully open eyes, because on some level they just don't get it, that it's necessary to act in a way that's independent of this power of attraction. So for that, your conscience, your intellect has to be the dominant faculty that you follow, and maybe you have to put the heart aside. Sometimes your heart will lead you into trouble, and sometimes your heart will take you to the right place. So follow your heart is not a blanket recommendation.
Except that it is for many, and now suddenly not.
Well, follow your heart if you have calculated everything very carefully and you've seen where it takes you. But if you follow your heart and there's lots and lots of red flags and danger signals, that if you do that, what it means is that you think you're following your heart, but you're actually under the influence of your karmic accounts.
Which also comes in the form of strong feelings.
Exactly. So I think we have to distinguish between strong feelings and the voice of the pure heart.
Tell us more about repulsion. Why is it that there are people, situations, places that we feel repulsed by? Sometimes you can meet a stranger and want to run in the opposite direction, even though that person hasn't done anything to you.
But you're detecting something about that person, either that they look okay but they're not really okay inside, and you can feel it and you get a warning signal, or at some point something bad had happened with that person and you can feel that, and that makes you want to go the other way. Repulsion also has to do with how you feel about yourself as a person. And then you will be repelled by those who do not correspond with that. You see, I mean, in any given cocktail party is full of all kinds of people. You gravitate towards some, and there's others you take one look at and you just gravitate away from them, because there are things about them, you read them in your way and you say, nah, not that one. Sometimes it may be that you can tell in advance, oh, this person is going to come and waste my time, so stay away from that. Or this person is going to come and want something from me, stay away from that. And especially, I think, if you're very sensitive psychically, then you can detect if something is positive or negative in the social environment. That is good fortune if you can detect it that much subtly, because otherwise, you have to spend so much time getting out of a situation.
Someone who is spiritually aware, awakened, will understand the forces of attraction and repulsion for what it is and take the necessary precautions. How does one go back to the proverbial scales, keeping the balance, maintaining equilibrium? That's what I need to know. How does one maintain equilibrium between that which you're attracted to and that which you're repulsed by?
I think the most helpful thing in that is your study of spiritual wisdom. When you meditate regularly, you're developing your sixth sense. You are operating the laws of spirituality, you're following the principles of spirituality the way they are set out. And if something is really attractive but really bad for you, what will come in the way is that if you follow that attraction, it will require you to break one of your spiritual principles. And if you have clarity on the usefulness of the spiritual principles, you will sustain the principle, and then the attraction will not have any power over you. When you're following the principles of spirituality, it's part of your GPS system that takes you to personal freedom, a very powerful connection with God, finishing off your karmic accounts, developing your personal position and fortune, and that thing is like an obstacle that has come along to test you, and you need to pass the test. And you do it by making sure that you continue to follow your principles. If something is against your principles, it means there's something wrong with it.
I'm now wondering about our own habits. They pull us towards themselves again and again and again. When one is spiritually aware, one of the things that one does is try and create new habits that bring towards oneself good karma, pure karma. We all have habits that have caused us in the past to create bad karma. How do you stop yourself from being pulled, attracted to your own worst habits that are detrimental to you and others?
It says in the Bhagavad Gita, you are your own best friend, you are your own worst enemy.
Not many people know that those words come from the Gita.
They don't, but
Yeah.
this is the origin of these words. And so if you're really a true friend to yourself, you will know what habits you have that are dangerous for you. I do not believe so much in this thing of creating new good habits. I do believe in discipline, and when you practice Raj Yoga, there are many disciplines that you need to adopt. But I don't call them habits, I call them disciplines. And I think that if you want to change your sanskaras, your habits are like sanskaras, then you have to raise your level of consciousness, because trying to stop this habit and start that habit I don't see many people having any success at that.
Yet many do that. Many say to themselves, I'm an angry and aggressive person, I must stop being angry. I'm a greedy person, I must stop consuming so much food or buying so much of stuff. I have this weakness and this weakness and this weakness, I must stop. So you are saying what?
What I'm saying is that's not the best way to go, because either they keep saying and they don't do it, or they do it to excess. You know, I had one person who determined that she was greedy. She was as skinny as a piece of wire, and still feeling guilty about eating too much. I say, excuse me, have you seen your weight? You know, this is anorexic. What are you talking about? You see, so this becomes almost a mental problem, you see, just because of trying to do what you just said. That this kind of behavior and this kind of damage to oneself is a catastrophe. The best thing, what I have found, is as you accumulate spiritual power, it changes your vibration, it changes your feel, it changes your sense of self, it changes what you're attracted to, what you're repelled by, it becomes a refinement, and you start to do the things that correspond with who you are and not do the things that correspond with who you're not. And it's so much more natural and easier.
That's a very different take from other schools of thought on spirituality. So, wow. Whilst we are on the subject of attraction, within the Brahma Kumaris, God has many titles. And one of his titles is the magnet. That is an attraction. Is it the case that human beings have a natural attraction to God?
You know, there was one phrase that I saw in our study today, in which God was saying God is only needed at the end of the cycle. What happens to a soul at the end of a world cycle is you're very conscious that you're depleted. And so you start looking for a way to fill. Essentially that puts you on the path of a seeker, and you're looking for God because God is your source to replenish everything that has been finished off in your soul. So you are attracted, but it's not a toxic attraction. It's an attraction that, as your saving grace, is an attraction that's going to enable you to get exactly what you need. This is a different kind of attraction from a negative attraction. In this attraction, what will get in the way of it is all of this materialism and karmic accounts and so on, which will seek to block your pursuit of that attraction. It's a very different thing.
So since this attraction towards the Supreme is the opposite of what you just said, toxic, how can we encourage it? How can we deepen it within ourselves to bring further benefit towards oneself?
God is dwelling in a different dimension from the world of matter. And we as spirits have the option to be in the world of matter or detached from the world of matter in the world of spirit. So the best way for us to encourage that attraction is to work on bringing ourselves off and decoupling ourselves from the attraction of matter. You want to really pull yourself to the inside. Sometimes I look at it as a donut. The material world is the sugary pastry, and the inside space and the outside space is the same. So if you go inside, you're in the same space as the outside space right away. And so then you can connect with God very quickly.
Who would have thought a donut could give one a spiritual realization? The mind boggles. Okay, so then with the practice of soul consciousness, what happens then with one's connection with God?
You're on the same dimension, so you go right there. And you're off the dimension of the attraction of matter, so you don't go there.
Yeah, here's the thing. Matter has a gravitational pull on the human soul. It's there all the time. And so what do you do with that type of attraction of matter, of this? It's deep and real.
This is the difference between soul consciousness and body consciousness. When you're body conscious, you're susceptible to the attraction of matter. And when you're soul conscious, you're not.
Okay, so we have come to the end of today's episode. Okay, and I'd like to say goodbye to you and thank you. This has been a very interesting conversation on what attraction is and what repulsion is, and also how one can encourage a beautiful and powerful relationship with the Supreme, who is called the magnet, which I can call the greatest attraction of all. So thank you, Sister Denise, for a wonderful half an hour, and thank you for joining us. And I hope today's conversation is one that will be uplifting to you. Take care and goodbye.